Yeah, I'm Johnny Ramsac, if that's the way you want it. If you have a smartphone, which you obviously do, then you can siphon Wi-Fi from almost anywhere on God's green earth these days. From the church picnic down to any fast food chain bathroom stall. Yeah, it gets a little greasy. But in this age of new media, you can't afford the dry rub down. Because on that information highway, it's a high-speed speed limit. And never mind the electric car, because it's all ass or gas. Everyone's airing their business on the online clothesline. Yeah, it's the modern way. But you can't go complaining when a few panties go missing. Though, if you insist, I'll dry your tears. But not for friendship. Cash, credit, or Bitcoin. The info on my website reads Johnny Ramsac on demand, because that's the way you gotta be in this digital age. 24/7. Oh, I do little odds and ends out here in Toronto. Lumping, shellacking, mopping. Things that respectable men refuse so that us meager scum can survive. That's an honest enough living. If carpal tunnel syndrome keeps you honest. Then, of course, there's that other side of my business. Private investigations. The side in which respectability and honesty are as stale as yesterday's mop water. I got the email at the end of another lousy week. Kind of week where my stomach was about ready to give up on me, like all the disgruntled ex-girlfriends that haunt my lonely hours. Horace J. Stumpton, a prominent local businessman, requested conference with me. It was a hot and sticky Monday morning, kind of morning that just made you feel like you woke up at hell's summer camp. I reported to his office, 8 a.m. sharp. Good morning, miss. I'm here for an 8 a.m. with Mr. Stumpton.
Your name, please?
R-A-M as in Mary, S-A-C, Ramsac.
May I ask what this is concerning?
Oh, nothing in particular. I always wander around, first thing on a Monday morning, looking for strangers to chat with.
I'm only doing what I've been told. You needn't get sore at me. Mr. Stumpton always asks that I vet his callers.
Look, Muffin, I don't need a vet. I've already had all my shots. Now let him know I'm here, will you? I'm expected.
Yes, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Ramsac. Yes, well, Mr. Stumpton, there's a Mr. Ramsac here to see you.
Well, now, don't just keep him waiting there, Peggy, you ignoramus. Send him in.
Oh, Mr. Stumpton will see you now, Mr. Ramsac.
Is he always this cute?
He's actually in one of his good moods today.
Sure. Thanks, Peggy. That's your name, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Sure is hot out. Thanks again. Stumpton's 6-foot bloated frame was slumped amid a motley of fast food wrappers and undersized office furniture. He emitted a bone-headed neurotic aura, for common sense would have produced a man inclined to sit at a big boy table. His beady, narrow eyes sat squished beneath horn-rimmed spectacles. His graying scrub brush of a mustache drew the heat away from his sagging jowls and meaty man gut. 60-plus years of single-mindedness came thundering out as he opened his hole and barked.
Well, don't just stand there. Come in and shut the door. It's now precisely 8:03 in the a.m. You're 3 minutes late. You may as well know right now, Ramsac, when I hire a man, he's my man. He reports well-buttoned, on the button, trousers cinched and ready to work. H.J. Stumpton will not stand for any of this sleepy-headed millennial jazz.
Whatever, you fucking retard.
What was that?
I said you are absolutely right, sir.
Yes, well, So, you're a black man. I didn't gather that from your dossier. You didn't seem so, judging from your website.
I'm late, aren't I?
Don't you get flip with me, Ramsac. If it's white guilt that you're peddling, then you've come to the wrong gringo. I'd eat a vanilla sundae in front of you 2 times and think nothing of it. It just so happens that I'm rather ensconced in the Negro community. Maybe a little too ensconced. So if you want to play Who's the Real G, then I'll take that action any old day of the week. Do you feel me, Ramsac? Comprende?
You're guiltless, you're dangerous.
Yes, and it would serve you well to remember. I'm hard on my men, Mr. Ramsac. Hard. To bang with me, you can't just be any geek off the street. You gotta be able to handle yourself. Earn your keep.
But Peggy said you were in a good mood today.
Why, you impertinent, dunderheaded little... Get out of my office! Get out of my office right now, Now wait! Wait, Ramsac. Come back here. I'm sorry. Now, you irked me. You irked me, Ramsac, and that's this blasted heat. You got a spine on your son. I can see that. Sit down, Ramsac, sit down. Now, to the matter at hand.
My fee is $200 a day. No, make that $300 a day.
300?
Plus expenses, Stumpton, and skip the church mouse routine. Though I bet you just love your altar boys, smothered in cheese.
Have it your way, Ramsac. 300 a day plus expenses, it is. Now, as to why you're here, my life is in danger. As you well know, my grandfather, the late Jacoby Stumpton, was a luminary in the stump removal trade here in Canada. When our European forefathers came over and wet their beaks, it was a little inconvenient on the Aborigine forebears. Teepees, lean-tos, wigwams were set ablaze in a flurry of bloodshed and pioneering. After the dust had settled and the arrows been holstered, a new frontier had arisen, parched in a sea of bloody and burnt-out tree stumps. The stumps needed hasty removal to gang way for the skyscrapers of pale-faced progress. On that frozen tundra is where my grandpappy carved his fortune, swashbuckling disgruntled Injuns while plucking out battered tree stumps. Single-handed, as legend has it. Stubborn to the stump, that's the Stumpton motto. I'm not saying it was right, Mr. Ramsac. I just thank God daily that I'm a white man on the winning side of history. Providence had been kind to the Stumptons, and in due course I took up the company mantle as CEO, like my father before me. I was blessed with a beautiful wife, Tabitha, and 3 hearty children, 2 girls and a boy. The stump trade had expanded with a stranglehold grip in South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, and Antarctica. Whole ecosystems were disappearing. It was truly the happiest time of our lives. We even had our eyes set on intergalactic stump remuneration. Well, you know how it is with a marriage. After the kids had grown and left the nest, a heavy staleness fell upon our household. We were like strangers, Tabitha and I, drifting past one another in our haunted corridors. I was unfaithful, I'm not proud to admit. Beginning with my trips to the Orient on stump estimation expeditions. She, in turn, was driven into the arms of another man, Leroy, a Black Lives Matter activist we met while de-stumping a reappropriated cotton plantation in rural Louisiana. Though it was just a fling, she still moans uncontrollably at the touch of 100% cotton, god damn him. We were all washed up, and a trial separation seemed in order. It was during this time that I met Squanto, a beefy young whistle punk I'd hired for some deep stumptation detail. I never met such a lumberjack, Ramsac. A red-blooded Mohawk tribesman, his copper-tanned rippled back would glisten in a hot day's sun, as his sure and steady pickaxe did the work of 3 lumbermen. Well, at the onset of all whirlwind romance is a little game of cat and mouse. Though he was 30 years my junior, an affection soon blossomed between us. And, to this day, I hold no reservations about it. I love the boy.
That's very touching, sir.
Yes, well, thank you. He's the love of my life. The best thing that ever happened to me. I still get choked up talking about it. Not soon after we moved in together, we became engaged. It was like something out of a fairy tale, Ramsac. He was on his hands and knees, fussing over a rotted stumpling near the juniper bush in our home garden. It was a holiday weekend, but the boy wouldn't rest. He was born to be a de-stumper. I sidled up next to him, got down on one knee, wiped the caked dirt off of his square jaw-dropping features, and popped the question. His beautiful chestnut eyes danced with boyish excitement as he flung his steely arms around me, showering me with kisses and tears of joy. But there was one snag, of course. Tabitha, my wife. Financially, she would be taken care of course. But her insatiable lust for money and the power that my de-stumping empire had afforded her has undoubtedly proven too strong. An amicable divorce wouldn't suit her. She wants it all. Not soon after the engagement, strange things started happening. We started receiving phone calls. When we'd answer, a heavy breathing would permeate the line, then hang up abruptly. There was this mysterious fire that was set in our garage, which thankfully got extinguished before any real damage was done. Squanto's beloved pet wolf, Herbert, was found dead in our driveway. He was inconsolable, weeping around the clock and howling at the full moon, the poor boy. And now this. It's a typed letter I received in the mail 2 days ago.
Quit playing cowboys and Indians and go back to your wife and kiddies, Stumpton, while you still have your scalp.
Our home surveillance caught images of a dark-haired woman in a trench coat, placing the letter in the mailbox. It's Tabitha, all right. She's plotting to have us killed, Ramsac.
Why didn't you go to the police?
Those officious, ego-seeking knuckleheads? As a black man, you should know better than to ask that. When I went down to see them, if they weren't stuffing themselves silly with honey crullers or slurping back coffee like a pack of dehydrated camels, they were motorboating over every damn word I said. It was just blah, blah, blah this and yada, yoda that, and we can't prove that your wife had anything to do with this. And the ornery, hate-filled prejudice that spilt from their eyes as they looked upon my Squanto, cradling his dead wolfie in his arms. Why, I'd have given my whole stumping empire in that moment to have had them horsewhipped. The whole blue lot of them!
My heart cries out for you, Mr. Stumpton.
I'm not paying to pluck at your heartstrings, Ramsac. That bitch wants me dead. Suss it out, man. Suss it out. Prove that my wife Tabitha is scheming to do away with me, and I'll pay you an additional $5,000 on top of your salary. Please, Mr. Ramsac. I'm frightened. I'm so frightened. I'm just...
I shut the door behind me, leaving Stumpton sobbing alone in his office. He was an okay old bird, as far as buzzards go. He had given me a snapshot of his wife, Tabitha. She was of the regal breed, of hen, late 40s, and well kept. Her jet black hair was shoulder length, dyed, permed, and pressed. It hung down in a stiff manner, like a tube sock a teenage boy has had his way with. Her makeup was in Technicolor, though her side whiskers were in black and white. Her rubbery visage peered out at you in a ghoulish type way, though you couldn't deny the sun had once shone on it. Botox and cosmetic butchery now earmarked her once striking beauty. Her teeth were ridiculously perfect, like those wind-up toy dentures that chatter. They gave off an eerie, incandescent type of sheen, kind of like those glow-in-the-dark constellations children stick on their bedroom ceiling. Yep, you would have no trouble spotting her in a power outage. But for a sexually ambiguous man, Stumpton sure picked a honey of a baby maker. Her taut, B-cup chest defied the test of time, standing at the ready like a school crossing guard out on bail bond. Her swirly hips and round bottom end gave you that warm, tingly feeling, like undies straight out of the dryer. And her firm, silk-finished legs kicked at you playfully, representing 132 pounds of all woman, crammed into a tight black cocktail dress. She was a deadly little cougar, 49 years young, with plenty of scratch left in her. I found out that evening when I called on her at Stumpton Manor, hers since the separation. Outside the palace was an intercom. I pressed down on the buzzer, and something resembling the pearly gates swung open, granting my admission to the golden beyond. I plodded up the driveway, passing elaborate flower beds, jet water fountains, and a gaggle of sports cars. Just a used-up, mop-and-bucket man, resigned to turning tricks as a down-at-heel private eye for rent. Another ornament on the front lawn of the wealthy. I scaled the front marble staircase and reefed on the big bronze door knocker. The door swung open autonomously, and a voice like a hot, creamy bowl of mushroom soup beckoned from within.
Enter, Mr. Ramsac, and don't mind the front door. It shuts automatically. I'm in the jacuzzi. Shall I come out, or will you come in?
Better come out, Mrs. Stumpton. Thank you.
Oh, if you insist. But you'll have to give me a moment. Now, where did I put that silly towel?
She took her sweet time in her womanly way, giving me a chance to catch my breath, not that it helped any. When she emerged, she had squeezed into a pair of black spandex booty shorts and was sporting a multi-patterned gray crop top. She smelled like a freshly juiced cantaloupe, dabbing at her damp, slick-back hair with a towel as she spoke.
Come out from the doorway so I can get a good look at you. So you're a detective. You must be hard to go in for that line of work, I imagine, Mr. Ramsac. Or do I call you Johnny?
Either will do, Mrs. Stumpton.
Okay, Johnny Ramsac. You drink wine, don't you, Johnny Ramsac? Or
would you prefer something harder?
Thank you, but I don't drink.
So you love Jesus. Is that it, Johnny Ramsac?
Yes, ma'am, as well as my friend, Bill W.
That's rather fetching in a man, though you'll have to excuse me.
This suffering heat brings out the naughty in me.
And what's with this janitorial side hustle you have listed on your website? You're quite the handyman, aren't you, Johnny Ramsac?
Yes, a serviceman. I provide those services.
A peeper sweeper, Suppose you and I make a big mess this evening. I could hire you to mop it up in the morning, couldn't I, Johnny Ramsac?
You are confused, Mrs. Stumpton. I am a peeper sweeper, not a dumpster diver.
You cheap grifter. You couldn't sweep your way out of an unlocked broom closet. To hell with who you are or what you are. Get out.
Wait. Now get out. You rotten gumshoe. I'm paid to stay, lady. Now give me the straight goods. What you sucking around old man Stumpton for? Scaring him and his boyfriend half to death.
I've told the police like I told you when you called. I have absolutely nothing to do with Horace and that Pocahontas of his.
That's not the way he paints it, gummy bear. What about the garage fire, the knife job done on poor Herbert the house wolf, and that typed letter in the mailbox? Wasn't that your handiwork, or were you too busy getting soused in the jacuzzi?
Tragedies, all of them. Guiltless, however, I still remain.
Stumpton says he has you on camera the morning he received the letter, dumping it into the mailbox.
Is everything okay, Mrs. Stumpton? Yes, is everything okay, Mrs. Stumpton? Yes, Simon, yes, Clarissa, everything is okay. Get back to your chores or whatever it is you do. Yes, Mrs. Stumpton, we're cleaning the toilets. We're scraping and scrubbing the toilets, Mrs. Stumpton.
Simon and Clarissa.
Two of the most wretched invalids you've ever laid your eyes upon. They could fuck up a cup of coffee, which they have, let alone clean a toilet. They're all I have left after 22 stinking years of marriage. 2 harebrained servants, 3 gluttonous snipes for children, 1 demented swish of an ex-husband, and an empty jacuzzi. He's insane, you know, Horace. I mean, he was normal enough when I first met him. A driven older man with a vast, de-stumping empire. The sex was pedestrian, of course, but that didn't matter then. I was young, with a rich and prosperous, stumping future ahead of me. Shortly after we were married, Horace began to change. He became increasingly short-tempered, hotting up over the most minor of infraction. If I left a light on in the hallway, if I forgot an item on the grocer's list, things didn't get any better after the children were born. The sex became sadistic. He'd force me to dress up like a lumberjack, fake glue-on beard, plaid tunic and steel toes. He'd cuff himself to the bed, shrieking at me to peg him in the asshole with the butt end of a destumption hoe. My bra and panties began to go missing. I'd chalked it up as due to Simon and Clarissa's bumble-headed attempts at doing laundry, until I saw Horace one night. He was lipsticked, soused, wearing a wig, and had stuffed himself into a pair of my best skimpies, pleasuring himself atop a stumpling by the veranda. I endured this year upon year. The children had grown and left for university. Though you're never really rid of a privileged child. If I'm not changing their diapers, then I'm changing their credit cards, it seems. The whole lousy lot of 'em. I was driven into the arms of a militant black man, as I'm sure Horace has told you, though somehow his running around with that sweet Indian boy of his somehow is dignified. But I shan't repent for those 3 ground-shaking nights on the plantation with Leroy. They were the happiest I've ever known. His uppity Negro passion for the Black Lives Matter movement awakened something within me. Leroy would probably skin me alive for saying this, but for the first time, I truly felt that all lives mattered. My life mattered. I wanted a divorce. The money, the houses, the cars, the children, to blazes with all of it. If Horace wanted them, he could have them. But instead he keeps me trapped here, waiting for the death blow in this barbarous play he's been directing for 22 horror-soaked years. I've been trying for a divorce, but he sends his litigious mouthpieced hoodlums over to threaten and intimidate me. That wasn't me on the home security camera. I haven't left the house in weeks. His greed and paranoia over his precious stumps has got me caught in a legal hell I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, which just so happens to be him. You got to believe me. Surely you could spare me some of that strength and courage. I need help so bad. I have no right to ask you, but I do ask you. Help me, Johnny Ramsac.
She fainted, collapsing into my arms like a discount sack of kitty litter. All of the excitement and commotion was enough to bring Simon and Clarissa scuttering out from whatever hole they had slid down.
Is everything okay, Mrs. Stumpton?
The toilet bowls are shining and shimmering, Mrs. Stumpton.
I shooed them off with an indifferent wave of my hand and dragged Tabitha Stumpton over to an adjacent love seat. I plopped her down, miscalculating the velocity, for when them boobies hit that stained seat cushion, she sprang backwards, propelling her unconscious body halfway across the room in a cartoonish slapstick manner. She landed with a dense thud in a half-downward dog position, as my yoga teacher would have instructed. Face down, ass up, butt breathing. Though a tempting vignette for a man of the strongest will and character, I yanked her knees out from beneath her, letting a good belly flop ripple out from under her. I left her on her stomach, as not to obstruct her breathing, called the family doctor, and got the hell out of there. Spilling out of a TTC subway station at Yonge and Dundas Square, I hadn't felt such a frightened sense of penetrating arousal since my carefree days of drunken escort courting on a day laborer's salary. Tabitha Stumpton was all kinds of fucked, and my mind needed a moment to decompress. I popped an aspirin to soothe the headache and still the erection that was beginning to well up upon me. Slumped against a parking meter, the echoes of her pregnant cries seemed to dance before me.
Help me, Johnny. I have absolutely nothing to do with Horace and that Pocahontas of his. That wasn't me on the home security camera. I've been trying for a divorce. Those 3 ground-shaking nights on the plantation with Leroy.
I had just blown my nose and was about to check Facebook on my smartphone when it began to ring with the fervency of the caller on the other end.
Ramsac! Get over here quick! Squanto has gone red man crazy, and he's trying to kill me! Hurry, Ramsac!
It was Stumpton, hollering like the Dickens. I grabbed a quick falafel, dived into an Uber cab, and sped toward my ailing client. When I got to Squanto and Stumpton's charming Church and Wellesley Street townhome, it was one of the most grisly scenes I had ever lived to bear witness. A statue of Michelangelo's David, naked as the day is long, stood ominously on the front lawn, sending goose pimples bubbling up my neck as I bounded up the front steps. Sailing through the front door, the full horror was then upon me. Gardenia fragrance and classical music filled the air as the prissy hum of homemaking leapt out from every corner. Candle holders, picture frames, tote bags, throw pillows, wall decor, and cats. Juxtaposed to this display was Squanto, beaten and bloodied, wearing a traditional headdress and loincloth. I tossed him a few napkins to wipe up, straining to hear his tired pleas.
Blackface man, please, must listen to Squanto.
Easy does it, Chief. I've called the police. An ambulance is coming.
Mr. Stumpton play dirty white man trick on Squanto. Mr. Stumpton say him love Squanto. Squanto find out it all was bunch of hooey.
Love's a bitch with feathers. Now come on. Save your energy.
Mr. Stumpton not care 8 red cents for Squanto. Mr. Stumpton make 'em dirty love on Squanto. Him have feckle fancy and peeing pleasures. him poo and pee on Squanto. Squanto love Mr. Stumpton, so Squanto take it. But him really like all the other white man in Squanto life.
Yeah.
Mr. Stumpton pretend to want marry Squanto only for Squanto family land. Him get Squanto drunk on fire water and force Squanto sign white man treaty. Him beat Squanto with candlestick when Squanto back turned. Now Mr. Stumpton try kill Squanto. Look out, Chocolate Man! Here come Mr. Stumpton!
The pungent stench of stool and urine hit the air as I whirled around to face H.J. Stumpton, naked under an open trench coat, wearing a long black wig with lipstick, drenched in piss, and wielding a chainsaw in a shit-caked graze.
So now you know, Ramsac. Young Squanto here is heir to the Micmac Paddywhack Reservation. Well, was heir to the reservation. He signed the deed over to me. Sorry, Squanto baby, but times are tough in stumping, and my company has gone belly up. That's some prime D stumping real estate, Ramsac. Enough profit to put Stumpton Limited back on the map. Not Squanto, not Tabitha, not even you are gonna stop me from ensuring that the Stumpton legacy lives on.
Drop that chainsaw, Stumpton. The police are on their way.
Did they think that I just let the business fold? Did that bitch think that I just let her bleed me dry in divorce court? Did you all think that I just let you destroy what my grandfather, the Honorable Jacoby Stumpton, spent his lifetime in creating?
Watch out for that dildo, Stumpton! Slipping on the loose sex toy sent Stumpton flying ass over tea kettle and the chainsaw after him. When he landed, the sickening sound of carved flesh and bone rang out, blood splattering the walls in red. When the cops arrived, I saw a rookie puke into his policeman's hat upon seeing the bloody hacked-up stump that had been Horace J. Stumpton. I guess everything turned out okay. Stumpton had coerced Squanto into signing the Micmac Paddywhack Reservation over to him, then planned to murder Squanto, framing his estranged wife Tabitha for the crime. Stumpton Limited had gone bust, and like most rich people, he just couldn't cope with the pressures of doing without. Squanto was hospitalized but made a full recovery and regained his land, though he had a hard time trusting white people again. Tabitha Stumpton was cleared of the frame-up job her husband had tried to pin on her. We had sex a few times, but the last I heard, she had relocated to Louisiana to join Leroy on the plantation. She self-identifies as a black woman and is now a full member of the Black Lives Matter movement. As for me, well, I'm doing all right. Stumpton got sawed in half before I could collect my payment from him, but I don't gripe about it. I've been earning a few bucks here and there, washing dishes, moving furniture, buffing hallways. They say in life, it's not the destination, but the journey that counts, which is good, because I still take the bus and my apartment's about the size of a box. Yep, I just humbly await my next customer while transcending this bitch, one day at a time.
Johnny Ramsac, if that's the way you want it. Caper number 1 was written especially for Jonathan Ramcharan, the podcast, by J. Ramcharan. The audio play was produced and performed by J. Ramcharan. The entire production was under the supervision of Jonathan Ramcharan.